everyone. New week, new topic. And the topic is focus. Oh, look, squirrel. Distraction being the opposite of focus. Can you, right now, for 5 minutes, focus on the most important thing in your career right now? Can you do that without getting distracted? If you can't, that's okay. That's why you're here. And you're not alone. There are many, many people who end up on the phone with us that's one of their main challenges, is they can't focus on what's the most important thing in their career, either because of distractions, like they know what that most important thing is, but they're just so distracted, or they don't even know what that most important thing is. So maybe you're in that boat where it's, how am I supposed to focus on the most important thing if I don't even know what that thing, the one thing is? And the way that shows up, I don't even know what the one thing is, because often we're so blinded by our distraction and by our own lack of clarity and focus that we don't even know that that's what's happening. So the way that we do find out that this is happening, because we know that it's happening, we see it again and again. Here's how it shows up. And it could show up in a number of ways, but these are some examples. One way could be that you start to feel like you're kind of just on a hamster wheel. Like it's just kind of day in, day out. You wake up, you have your coffee, you have breakfast, maybe you spend some time with family, you go off to work, you go to work, you fight the fires, and you go to some meetings, you have lunch, maybe it's working lunch, maybe it's not. You come home, maybe you have dinner, spend time with friends, family, and then maybe it's time again to go on Slack, check some emails, whatever, read a book, watch some Netflix, go to bed, repeat. And it's like Groundhog Day. It's like over and over and over again. And it may be to the point where it's like, oh my God, this sucks. Seriously, another day, the same as yesterday, the same as the day before. I cannot freaking take this anymore. That's one way that it shows up. Or it may not be quite that extreme. It may just be like, yeah, I kind of feel like I'm on a treadmill. Like I'm not completely burnt out. I'm not feeling completely helpless and hopeless and dismal. But like, isn't life supposed to be more than this? But then like you look at all the other people just walking on their treadmills and you're like, I guess this is it. But there's that nagging voice in the back of your head. There's more. There's more. There's more that's possible. And it sort of shows up that way. And that's what happens when we're not living on purpose. That's what happens when we don't approach our careers purposefully and intentionally. That's what happens when we don't focus on the one thing that matters the most. And you may be wondering, what is the one thing? Can you just tell me what the one thing is, Jen? The thing is, no, I can't. The one thing for me is going to be different than the one thing for you. And the one thing for the other person who's watching this, on the other side of the country, right? The one thing is different for everybody. It's up to you to determine what that one thing is. So that's one way that it shows up, because you don't have that focus. You don't have that drive, that purpose that's kind of behind the actions that you're doing. So it feels purposeless. It feels meaningless. It feels maybe a little bit like you may just be kind of disappearing into irrelevance, because there's no purpose or meaning or intention behind it all, because you're not focusing on the one thing. You're not focusing on your purpose, your mission. And what your mission is and what that one thing is, again, it's going to vary from tech leader to tech leader. And that's why it can be tricky, because I can't just tell you what it is. Another way that it can show up is essentially like you're feeling like you're hitting a career ceiling, right? Like you're not, like you've reached a certain level. Maybe it's upper levels of individual contributor, maybe it's middle management, maybe it's almost upper management, maybe breaking into senior leadership, but you want to get even higher. Wherever you're at, you're feeling like there's this ceiling. And yes, there is the glass ceiling, and it can feel a little bit like that, especially if you're a woman, a person of color. Absolutely, those kinds of things can happen, but it's kind of a different metaphor here. Whereas the glass ceiling is more because of systemic inequities that happen because of all the isms, sexism, racism, all of that. That's not really what we're talking about here. Although, if you are someone who is historically disadvantaged, historically at the somebody who is disadvantaged because of all of these isms, right, then that's just going to add like another ceiling. It's going to feel even harder. The ceiling that I'm talking about here is self-imposed. That it's like, I can't get any higher. And you may say, well, it's the company I work for, it's the place that I live, or, you know, it's my coworkers, or whatever it is. But at the end of the day, no matter what systemic inequities or the company that you work for, whatever it is, you can take ownership and get to that next level. You just don't know how. And so it could start to feel like you're hitting this ceiling, and you want to be empowered and you want to know how to get to that next level in your career, to make more of an impact, to earn more money, to have the opportunity to, you know, really create more innovation and impact, right? And more value, right? But you just can't, you're not able to break through that ceiling. Like that's a way that it can feel when it's just like, I'm not even sure what this one thing is. I'm just kind of going through the motions, and there's that ceiling, or I'm on this treadmill. Other ways that it can show up, like I was saying before, is that like, you know what that one thing is, like you've identified it, but you're just so distracted by the other stuff that's going on in your life, you can't focus. Oh, squirrel. Oh my God, squirrel. Oh gosh, squirrel. Oh, there's another one. Oh my God, there's a squirrel on fire, right? So as an example, see if I can think of an example here. So I was talking to somebody recently who is on the job market and knows that her one thing is, I want to land another job. The place that I'm working right now, you know, she's in a technical management kind of a position. And in this particular case, it was like an engineering management kind of position, like more of like a tech lead kind of a position. And she wants to break into management eventually. So she's been an individual contributor for a number of years, been coding and software engineering, and has been in kind of technical lead kind of situations for a number of years, and has never been able to break into management yet. And she knows that for this to get there, her one thing is she's got to go on the job market. She's got to land another job, because the place that she's at right now is just not working. It's very clear. So she has that target, right? So over here, I was talking about like, I don't even know what the target is. I'm just on this treadmill. I'm just hitting the ceiling. For her, it was like, I have the target, right? I want to land this next job because I know that where I'm working now, it sucks. I got to get out of here. So land that next job, right? I have this target, but there's just like so much else going on in her life right now. Won't get into the details, but you can probably relate, right? So stuff going on in your life, right? You have the target, but yet the stuff going on with your family squabbles, maybe somebody's going through a divorce, maybe you're dealing with health issues, or somebody else in your family is dealing with health issues as well. And so you got to be there to support them, emotional support, possibly financial support. And you know, maybe you have kids or there's other people in your life, like friends who you're looking after, and they're going, and it's like a shit show over there, and you got to be there to support them. Oh, and on top of all of that, you have a cold. And on top of all of that, there's this job that you really do dread going to, and you're going to deal with all the stuff that's going on there as well. So there's all of these different things that are pulling you in lots of different directions, even though like you know what that target is, or you think you know. She wasn't landing the job. She, you know, interview after interview, wasn't even getting interviews, you know, getting some interviews, but no callbacks. And the interviews she's going on, it wasn't really a fit. And it was like, I can't, I just can't. I can't. That's how it shows up when you know the target, but you're just so distracted by everything else that's going on. And so look, if you're in either of these situations, or maybe it's somewhere in between, or pieces of what I'm saying are resonating and it's a slightly different situation, but it's really like, yeah, I get distracted and I don't know how to get out of it, then really the solution to that is it's time to book a call with us, because we don't want it to get to the point where it's worse than it is right now. Wherever it is right now, it can get worse. And it does get worse. We've seen it time and time again. It breaks my heart. People who talk with us and for whatever reason decide not to take our help, not to take our hand, and then come back a year, 2 years, 3 years later, and they're worse off than they were. They are, maybe when we first talked, they were on the verge of divorce. Now they are divorced. Maybe when we first talked, there was, you know, their blood pressure was a little high and their doctors were a little bit concerned about that, and they started taking meds for that. And now a year or 2 years later, they had a heart attack. They ended up in a hospital bed, and they really need to take care of this. And for a lot of people, like they say, well, I can't draw a direct line between how I'm suffering in my career and these marital problems, and how I'm suffering in my career and in you know, these health problems. But you know what? The fact that you're struggling in your career and that you're not able to focus and that you're not really making the impact that you want, that is what I can tell you is that that is not helping. That is not helping your relationship situations. That is not helping your health situations. So don't let it get to the point where you're divorced or in a hospital bed or something similar or worse than that. Like if you're struggling right now and you can't focus because you're just so surrounded by so many squirrels, you can't even think straight, and you don't even know what that target is, or even if you do, it's time to book a call with us, thepeoplestack.com/book. And we're going to help you gain that clarity. We know exactly what questions to ask you so that in that approximately 1 hour conversation, you will get so much clarity, not only about what that spot is, like what is the target, but also how to get there. That even though you may be surrounded by loads of squirrels and loads of squirrels on fire, that would be a terrible thing, wouldn't it? Yeah. Got to insert a little bit of humor into what can be a dismal situation. But you're going to get so much clarity. It doesn't matter how many squirrels you're surrounded by, how many distractions you're surrounded by, you're going to be able to march forward. That is our solemn promise to you on this call. You're going to be able to march forward, and you're going to be able to have that clear path toward upgrading your career and making more of an impact. And oh, by the way, this is going to have a positive effect on your relationship, your physical health, your mental health, and just being on, you're going to feel like you're on purpose, as opposed to just, I'm on a treadmill just like everybody else. So go ahead and book a call with us, thepeoplestack.com/book. We will help you to not be distracted by those squirrels anymore. We'll help you focus, you are going to be empowered to gain that focus and clarity. So when you get off that call, you're going to be able to move forward and really just help bring your career to new heights and serve people at a level that you never thought possible. So go ahead and book a call with us today, thepeoplestack.com/book. The message of the day, the takeaway from the day, I encourage you all to write it down for yourself after you press stop on this video. Capture what did you learn? What was your aha moment? Capture your distinction. But if you want one, I'll give it to you. It's basically to make sure that you not only have that target, what's the one thing that is the most important thing in your career right now? Define that for yourself. What is the one most important thing in my career right now? And make sure you have a step-by-step plan to get there, especially if you're surrounded by lots of distractions. Because if you're surrounded by lots of distractions, you're not going to be able to get there without that clarity of that target, but also that focus of, okay, this is how I'm going to get there. But if you need help with either of those, what's the target? What's the step-by-step plan? We got you covered. You can book a call with us. So that is it for the day. Thank you all for your attention. Thank you for listening. Catch you later.